William Hill sponsors White versus Parker on Sky Sports Box Office.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS Rifle TV in association with MTK Global. We're at the White Parker final press conference here in London. I'm joined by MACKLIN. Happily retired, Macklin.
Very happily retired.
Don't miss it?
You miss it on the big nights. So I don't miss it day to day. You know what I mean? But
The training side.
Yeah, the dieting and the solitude. But no, I miss the on the big nights that these sort of events when you're up at the press conference and the weigh-ins and that, and on the night and people are coming out and the music's going. Yeah, you miss the buzz then, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of think if you stayed away from it, then you kind of don't know what you're missing. But you're around the scene all the time. You're very kind of active still in that way. So yeah, you would. Why not?
It was good. I mean, I made sure I stayed out of the gym for a couple of years because I didn't want to. If you start getting fit again, you might be tempted back. Where I've had 2 years out now. You know what I mean? There's no temptation to fight again. But so I started just getting back in the gym, doing a little bit just to get a bit fit. So yeah, no, all good.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about obviously last night's developments regarding Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andrade. Well, probably very surprising to most. The purse bid was called off at the last minute, and a deal was reached between, well, basically Frank and Eddie, and whoever else was involved. I'm assuming there was other people involved into kind of making this happen.
Yeah, help make that deal happen as well.
Yeah, well, if this can happen, I'm sure it kind of opens doors for other fights to happen as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of MTK's things was that they wanted to be the bridge, because there was a lot of MTK fighters with Eddie, there's a lot of MTK fighters with Frank, and there's no need for pettiness, and doesn't, it doesn't have to be either or. Everyone's in the business of boxing. It's it's like Top Rank and Golden, where to make great fights, just because you're with one stable, doesn't mean there can't be joint promotions, or maybe it works out that this fight goes on your promotion, or maybe another fight down the line goes on ours, or whatever way it works out. But I don't think the boxing fans and boxing public should be starved of the great fights because people aren't with the same people. And I think MTK always wanted to make sure that they could do everything they could possibly do to make all the best fights happen. Yeah,
because obviously there's fights that have sort of happened between fighters from each camps or promotional stables over the years, but it's kind of been maybe like a purse bid situation, like someone's mandatory, but it doesn't normally happen, does it? And especially kind of at this level, like the Billy Joe Saunders level. So to see that happening is a positive sign.
Yeah, well, I mean, the purse bid's in there. Basically, if you can't reach a deal, then it goes to a purse bid because the fight has to go ahead when it's a mandatory situation. But if you can do a deal, it's better usually, and people wait to the last minute sometimes in business, the 11th hour they call it, to do the deal, and I think that's what happened. But luckily a deal got done, and I think it's a great fight. Andrade is someone that is so probably underrated in terms of his profile. He doesn't have a massive profile, but he's a hell of a fighter. I think he was America's last world amateur champion. I think it was in 2007 in Chicago. I don't know if they have had one since, maybe they have, I'm not sure, but he was a top class amateur, slick southpaw, and he's really suffered in his career in the sense that he's too good for his own good. His profile isn't particularly high. You're not going to get paid loads of money generally to fight him, even though I think Billy Joe's doing all right, but generally you don't get paid a lot of money to fight him, and he's a really difficult fight for anyone. But I think him and Billy Joe, that's like two super slick, super smart southpaws, and might not be a fight of the year, but that'll be an intriguing battle of wits.
I mean, just coming back to what we were talking about, it's MTK have obviously got a large proportion of fighters that fight with Frank, and they've got a proportion of fighters that fight with Matchroom as well. So maybe this is kind of what we needed, was someone in between, which seems to be MTK, to kind of be a mediator in terms of making these kind of fights happen as well.
Yeah, it's a strong third party, isn't it, that can act as a bridge.
Yeah.
Between
it needs to be a strong one as well. Yeah. Otherwise it's not going to happen, is it?
They wouldn't respect anyone. It's a minor player that means nothing, has no clout or no thingy. They're not going to really carry any weight in those discussions. Where MTK is now a big entity. It's a force in boxing, and you know, like you say, everyone wants to get on, really, and MTK philosophy is to work with everyone and do what's best for the fighters. So the fact that it's been a major piece in making this fight happen, that's great, and long may that continue.
Would you go as far as saying without MTK's involvement in this between Saunders and Andrade that the fight wouldn't have happened?
I think it'd go to a purse bid, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't. No. All right. I'll reword that. A deal wouldn't have been reached before a purse bid.
No, I don't think a deal would have been reached. Definitely not. No.
Yeah, I can kind of see that as well. So Billy Joe Saunders will be fighting on the Zone at some point in October. Touted as the 20th, possibly in LA. He'll be fighting on Sky Sports as well. So it's mad, but obviously he was obviously being paid a lot of money, and you know, obviously Frank's confident that he'll beat Andrade. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Frank's a gambler, so Frank's rolling the dice. You know, and he wins more than he loses over the years. He's rolled the dice many times. He's won more than his last. This is a 50-50 fight. Andrade very slick, very clever, but so is Billy Joe. You know, Billy Joe's coming in. Probably a career best performance. He changed trainers, and it seems to have really worked out for him. You know, and it's a marriage, isn't it? You know, you go from you click with certain people, and he seems to have really clicked with Dominic Ingle. And Billy Joe's been predominantly on the last few years been on BoxNation, BT, but you know, it was a purse bid situation. It was going to go to purse bids, and probably Frank didn't want to risk it going there. And at the last minute, he'd done the deal, and at the end of the day, he's also got to do what's best for his fighter. Yeah, he's got his network and he's got his promotional company, but he's also representing Billy Joe. He's got to, you know, he has to bear that in mind, do what's best for him. And I think that, you know, that they obviously came to a good deal, and it made sense. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it.
I mean, there's always this kind of stigma of Frank and Eddie, kind of people assuming they don't want their kind of prize assets to be fighting on rival networks, etc. But which is probably true to an extent, you know. But
I'd say it's true to a large extent. But the bottom line is they're both businessmen. They're not stupid. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, they're going to do what's the best deal. Yeah. You know, and they're going to argue up and down, and then they're going to realise, right, we're at the point now where I've pushed it as far as I can, and then it's decision time. You know, and he obviously made most sense to take the deal.
Be interesting anyway. Press conference should be interesting with both parties up there. All right, Matt, thank you very much for a little bit of your time. Obviously, look forward to this press conference today, and it should be a good weekend at the O2.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you, Matt.
William Hill sponsors White vs Parker on Sky Sports Box Office.